Today we're going to talk about my top 4 tips for how to shoot a handgun like a pro. And whether you're shooting a revolver or a semi-automatic, these 4 tips apply equally to both platforms. However, for the demonstration, we're going to use my favorite, my 3rd Gen Glock 19, and we'll begin the lesson as always by confirming clear. This is a blue gun mag, doesn't hold any bullets, it's just for training. Okay, no source of ammunition, breech is clear. All right, guys, let's get going. First of my 4 tips is dealing with arc of movement. What is arc of movement? Arc of movement is when you're pressed out on the target and that front sight is moving around. Can be kind of jittering left and right, up and down. So how do we deal with arc of movement? Well, for starters, I want to mention something a lot of folks don't think about: coffee. I love drinking coffee, but in my own experience, if I've had 1 cup and I go to the range to shoot, I do just fine. If I've had 2 cups, that extra caffeine makes me a little jittery. And when I get jittery like that, I can't keep on target as well, and I just don't shoot as well that day. So that's something you might want to consider. But that notwithstanding, a lot of folks that come to the range, especially new shooters, will take their gun, and let's say for this example, the Glock 19 holds 15 rounds. They'll top off that magazine, get on target, and they'll go bang, 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 and they'll keep pulling the trigger until the magazine is empty, and then they'll load it up again and do the same thing. Their first few shots may not be so bad, but as they get towards the end of that magazine, the shots are horrible. Okay, and why? Well, using a firearm is like using any other tool or sports equipment or implement. It requires muscles. Okay, you will build up muscle strength in your finger from shooting over a period of time. You'll develop grip strength in your arms from holding that gun out for periods of time. And you'll also develop shoulder strength from shooting over long periods of time. So these are muscles that need to develop. And when somebody is new to any sport or any activity, their muscles for performing that sport are not always as strong as the folks who have been doing it for years. So what happens is fatigue sets in. People will get out there and they're pulling the trigger and they're pulling the trigger and they're pulling the trigger, and they're dealing with the recoil, and they're holding the gun out there, and their arms are getting tired. So for that reason, when I teach a lesson, I usually instruct the student just to load no more than 5 rounds, because then that gives them a chance to shoot 5 good rounds, and then boom, they're off target, clear it, reload, get ready, and kind of reset. Okay, but you can do that as well. If you've loaded up your magazine and you're shooting and things are going good, and then all of a sudden arc of movement is there, the front of that gun, and I don't like to point the gun normally directly at the camera, but I'm going to point it a little bit more your direction so you can see. If you're holding the gun out there and it's jittery like this, or it's doing this kind of back and forth thing or whatever else, you're not going to make an accurate shot. And I have seen people do it, I promise you. They think, well, if it's going back and forth, I'm going to wait till it's right in front of the bullseye and pull the trigger. And it never ends up working. So what's the solution? If you find yourself having problems with arc of movement while you're shooting, finger indexed along the side, come off the target, bring it back to your chest, relax your shoulders, 3 or 4 seconds. You can even take a deep breath. And as you exhale, relax the body. And when you push out again, you'll find that you're very, 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 very stable. Okay? Tip number 2. Keep the trigger fully depressed until the firing sequence is complete. So I've seen people a lot of times where, as right-handed shooters, of course, the shots tend to go low and left if they're jerking or slapping the trigger. And with lefties, the shots tend to go low and right. But I've seen a lot of times shots that end up going straight down. And the shots that end up going just south of the bullseye tend to be, in my experience, because I've seen people who pull and let go and pull and let go. They pull the trigger and let go quickly, and if your body is in a hurry to do a second movement, it's in a real hurry to do the movement directly before it. So if they're in a hurry to let go of the trigger, their body is in a real hurry to pull the trigger as well in anticipation of that. That can be resolved by, if I take up the slack, slow squeeze, boom, I hold the trigger until that firing sequence is finished, and at that point I can then ease off the trigger. And as you heard with the click, there, you get the added benefit of using the trigger reset on guns like the Glock or some of the other more modern semi-automatics that have a trigger reset built in. If you are pulling the trigger and letting it go, you're never going to be able to use that trigger reset anyway. Okay? So, in conclusion, take up the slack, pause at the wall, slow squeeze and hold, the gun will cycle, boom. I'm going to simulate that by racking the slide. Once that firing sequence is concluded, then ease off the trigger. That'll bring those shots that are going straight down, it'll bring them back up. Third tip, probably the best tip I've ever given anyone. If you fail to hit the bullseye, pull the trigger slower the next time. You'll probably be a little bit closer. And if you're not on bullseye with that shot, pull the trigger even slower after that. So in other words, pull the trigger progressively slower with each subsequent shot, and you'll find that your accuracy starts to improve and you start moving towards the bullseye. Okay? The third tip is one of my favorites. I've done a lot of training with my Israeli buddies. I know a lot of guys that are former IDF, and they are fantastic. These guys are the best at what they do. And one of the tips that I got from them was maintaining an even cadence or rhythm when you're shooting multiple shots. And there's a gentleman named Samir who's up in Dallas, and if you see this video, Samir, hey, how's it going? Thank you for the tip. He gave me this years ago. It doesn't matter whether you're shooting slowly, bang, 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 or you're shooting rapidly, bang, 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 bang. Whatever repetition you're doing, have an even rhythm or cadence between each one of the shots. Because you do have recoil to deal with. And when you're pulling the trigger, your body is accepting the recoil and rocking back into place. And if you do this on a rhythm, an even rhythm or an even cadence, your shots will actually be more accurate, as opposed to going bang, 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 bang. If you're doing stuff like that, shots are going to be all over the place. But if you maintain that even rhythm, boom, boom, or, as Samir said, boom, 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 your body will adjust to it. Everything in the universe works in cycles and rhythms. Our bodies work in cycles and rhythms. So in closing, those are the 4 tips. If you've enjoyed this video, do us a favor. Please hit the like button and please subscribe as well. And thank you again for watching the Gun Fu Training channel. And also, before we leave, comments. If you have some positive comments or some feedback, please go ahead and leave those on the videos as well. We like to hear that. All right, guys, thanks again. And until next time, have a great day.